No wonder my mom could afford the place. She'd hooked up with someone new. Yet again. I could hardly blame the woman for trying to find her OTP, but she'd gone through 5 divorces in her 6 decades on Earth. There comes a time to accept defeat and become a cat lady. That was my plan, at least, especially since the man I was currently in love with died more than 50 years ago and was now haunting my BFF's house in Salem, Massachusetts. C'est la vie. That being said, I did spot a hottie at the airport in Boston, and then again on the flight over. Thick hair as dark as a starless night. What promised to be an exquisite jawline obscured by the upturned collar of a long black coat. The material, cut clean and clearly expensive, emphasized the massive expanse of his shoulders beautifully. But it was his eyes, a shimmering, silvery blue that made me forget how to breathe. At least during that brief glimpse I got before he disappeared around a corner at the airport or behind a passenger's seat on the plane. I looked for him almost desperately when we landed, my irises fairly begging for another peek. But with all the bustling of deboarding, I never saw him again. A pity, because I couldn't help a niggling of familiarity in the back of my mind. "I like your glasses," Apple said, pulling me out of my thoughts again, and I had to remember which pair I was wearing. While almost always cat-eyed, my glasses tended to change colors with my mood. Today they were blue to help soothe the anxiety coursing through my veins. "Thank you." Rising to my feet again, I hefted the parka and the Betsy Johnson onto a shoulder and took hold of my suitcase. Whoever invented wheels for these things deserved a Nobel Prize, or a lifetime supply of frozen lasagna. Because who doesn't love lasagna? The minute I stepped out of her path, Apple rushed past me like she had someplace to be. I called out to her, "Are you going to be around for a while?" "Maybe," she said over her shoulder, pedaling to her grandmother's house with a fierce determination. "Stay out of the street," I yelled, though it was clearly too late for such warnings. With a deep sigh, I turned back to my mother's front door and resigned myself to the inevitable. If the issue weren't so burning, if it weren't literally a matter of life and death, I wouldn't even bother. But this was no longer about me only. My BFF was a charmling too, but at least her new title made sense. She'd been born into a family of witches. I, on the other hand, had been born into a family similar in consistency and texture to the fruit and fruitcake. I'd never had a magical bone in my body. But suddenly I'm a charmling? Not just a witch, but a very powerful type of witch, one of only 3 in the world. And this was where it got sticky. This was why I needed my mother's help. A blood heir can only be born from a carrier of the magical gene. But the man I'd called father my entire life didn't have a magical bone in his body. Not that I knew of, anyway. Depending on how this conversation went, he would be my next stop. So many questions, so few steps to the front door. I listened to the rollers bounce in the grooves on the sidewalk as I made my way to Mom's new entrance. Only one car in the driveway, a brand-new Mercedes, so I hoped her new man wasn't home. But before I could knock, my phone rang. I pulled it out of my bag and breathed another sigh of relief before answering my best friend's summons. Defiance was still in Salem, enjoying her new sweetheart and a new son she'd brought across from the other side, because apparently charmlings can do shit like that. After tapping the green circle, I waited for her face to appear on my screen. "Well?" she asked, her dark hair falling prettily around her face. She was sitting in the kitchen of her new, gorgeous mansion, a dilapidated Cape Cod-esque manor named Percy any witch would be proud of. "Well, what? Did she tell you who knocked her up?" I stuffed my coat through the telescopic handle on the suitcase. I haven't seen her yet. I'm at her house now. Dude, you landed 2 hours ago. Have you already forgotten what traffic is like here? "Oh," she said, her tone deflating. "Sorry. Call me the minute you find out who your real dad is. Like that."